My mom's parents were both immigrants. They were from Ireland. I believe for my grandma, something like she lived on a farm, her older sibling or something, her brother inherited the farm, so she had to go. She didn't know anyone in Ireland. So she came here, I'm assuming, for a better life. My grandpa, who was older than her by 13 years, also came here too. Coming to the United States was hope for them. This is where they had to go. At that time, they didn't have much they could do in Ireland. I know they were proud to and happy to be here, from what my mom said. They used to speak Gaelic, which is the language of the Irish, and my grandpa said it was fine to his wife, my grandma. They could speak it to each other. They didn't want the children to speak it. They were proud to be here, and they wanted to speak the English language. They did their citizenship. They wanted to be United States citizens. So when they had their first few children, say 4 or 5, they had a 2-flat, and they rented the top story, so which was nice. So they were bringing in a little revenue besides his police officer position. And then, of course, as the babies kept coming, they had 2 sets of twins. My mom was one of the twins. And it was during the Great Depression that eventually they had to let the renters go, find a place to live, because they needed both stories of that home to raise the family. My grandpa on my dad's side was also a Chicago police officer. He served in World War I. He was on the USS Michigan. He was in the Navy. He overheard people talking that they were going to close with the Army. However, no, it was better to get in the Navy, according to them, than the Army. And they were going to close, or whatever you call it. They had enough, they thought, enough men for the Navy. So he had to get down to the office and sign up as soon as possible, because he wanted to be in the Navy versus the Army, figuring maybe on a ship there wouldn't be as much battle. Another story, prior to him going into World War I, he was at home. He had heard some news. News back then went around the town. We didn't have television back then. And he heard about a ship overturning in the Chicago River. It was called the Eastland. And if you Google it, it's called the Eastland disaster. A ship was docked. I forget if it was near LaSalle I can't remember. And on the Chicago River, it was going to take people over across Lake Michigan. There was supposed to be a picnic area for companies, something like that. Long story, the people all leaned to one side, the people that were on the boat, to wave to the people, and the people on land, I guess you would say, along the river there, and the whole thing tipped over. It's terrible. You wouldn't believe something like that happened. 844 people died, including the crew. And later I found out they had to bring these people to a makeshift building, a morgue, and found out later it was Harpo Studios, where Oprah did her TV show. And I've heard later there's some hauntings in there because of that. But long story short, my grandpa was told by his mother, don't go down there, Owen. Don't go down there. Whatever you do, don't do it. But it just goes to show you, a 24-year-old, he was a grown man and he still disobeyed his mom. My mom worked prior to having her family, Illinois Bell, and a secretary also after that being an operator. But once she got married, she was a stay-at-home mom, and her and my father were married 56 years. My dad worked for the City of Chicago Public Schools. He started out what they call school fireman, and shoveled coal in a boiler to get heat working. He was a maintenance man. He moved up to school engineer, and he did that the whole time I was being raised with my siblings. I have 3 older brothers and an older sister. We all attended St. Denis Grammar School. My brothers went to St. Lawrence High School, and my sister and I went to Queen of Peace High School. Of course, I was close to my sister. She was closest in age to me. We walked to school together. where my brothers were there, but they were always out with their friends, and I hung more with my sister out with our friends. We were out in the neighborhood all the time. After school, we'd do our homework and then go out and play until it was time to get home, clean up, go to bed. We did have dinner, but then we would be back out until it was time to clean up and go to bed. We had, simple birthdays, simple Christmases. We were always there together, all of us. So I would say we had a pretty good relationship. We cared about each other, we teased each other, and helped each other out. Since I was a baby, I got most of the help. I couldn't help them very much. But, my mom had us doing housework and everything too. Now that they're older, I'm closer to two than I am the other two. And a lot of times that's just because where they live, location. Two of them live a little bit farther. Everyone's still in the Chicagoland area. It's just two live closer to my home. I'm a mom and a wife. I have 3 children. I would mention I'm I guess a family person. I have worked, so I know how the world works. I'm educated, and I try to give everyone a fair try.